You walk into a room and something shifts, not outside, inside. Your voice adjusts, your posture changes, your humor becomes slightly different. It's subtle, but you feel it. And later, when you're alone, you wonder, why do I feel like a different person? With everyone I meet, and which one is actually me? With your family, you're quieter. With close friends, you're sharper, more playful. At work, you're measured and controlled. On dates, you're slightly edited. None of these versions are fake, but none feel complete. You notice it most in small moments. You rehearse sentences before speaking. You scan the room before laughing too loudly. You feel a brief delay between impulse and expression, like there's a filter, checking everything. Later, alone at night, you replay conversations. Did I say too much? Did I sound strange? Was I being weird? This constant adjustment leaves a strange aftertaste, a sense that you never fully land. Psychology calls part of this self-monitoring the tendency to regulate behavior to fit social cues. High self-monitors are socially adaptive. They read the room quickly. They adjust tone, language, even values subtly. It's a skill. But when it's constant, it creates a quiet identity question. If I change everywhere, do I actually have a stable self? And deeper than that, why does your system feel safer adapting than staying steady? You're not fake. You're not fragmented. You're responsive. Human identity is not a fixed object. It's a dynamic system. Personality psychology shows that traits exist, but behavior shifts across contexts. The brain evolved for social survival. Belonging meant safety. So flexibility became adaptive. If you could adjust to different groups, you increased your chances of staying included, especially if, at some point in life, belonging felt uncertain. Maybe you grew up in unpredictable environments. Maybe approval felt conditional. Maybe subtle rejection felt sharp. Your brain learned something important: stability is risky. Adaptation is safer. So you became socially fluid. But here's the tension. Fluidity protects you, yet it also makes you question yourself. Because what you really want is not to stop adapting. You want to feel consistent. So what creates that internal split? The answer isn't personality weakness. It's something deeper in how the brain organizes identity. Your brain doesn't store one single self. It stores multiple self-representations. In cognitive science, the self is considered a network of memory, emotion, and prediction patterns. Different contexts activate different networks. Think of it like lighting different rooms in a house. The house is one structure, but only certain rooms are illuminated depending on where you stand. When you're at work, the competent, composed network activates. With friends, the spontaneous, expressive network lights up. With family, perhaps an older version formed years ago comes online. This is called context-dependent self-activation. It's normal, but here's where it becomes uncomfortable. If you develop high social sensitivity, meaning your amygdala reacts strongly to evaluation, your brain over-prioritizes adaptation. The prefrontal cortex steps in quickly to regulate, adjust tone, edit thought, modulate expression. The process happens fast, often below awareness. Here's a simple mental model. Imagine your nervous system has an internal thermostat for belonging. If it senses even slight social cooling, it increases behavioral warmth. You smile more. You soften opinions. You shrink intensity. Belonging temperature stabilizes. Anxiety drops. That relief reinforces the behavior. Over time, adaptation becomes automatic. But here's the side effect. When behavior constantly shifts to reduce social threat, the brain receives inconsistent feedback about identity. You feel dispersed. Not because you lack a self, but because your attention is always outward. So the real question becomes, how do you feel consistent? Without becoming rigid, the goal isn't to stop adapting. It's to anchor. Here are 4 principles grounded in psychology. 1, identify your non-negotiable trait. What to do? Write down 3 qualities that feel central to you across content, not roles. Traits: curious, direct, gentle, analytical. Why it works. Research on self-concept clarity shows that naming core traits strengthens neural coherence and identity networks. When you consciously define stable aspects of yourself, the brain anchors behavior around them. Example: if honest is central, you may soften tone socially, but you won't distort truth. The expression adapts. The core remains. Too slow, the adjustment reflex. What to do? When you feel the urge to modify yourself mid-interaction, pause for one breath before adjusting. Why it works. Pausing interrupts automatic amygdala-driven threat responses. It allows the prefrontal cortex to evaluate whether adaptation is actually needed. Not every social signal requires correction. Example: someone doesn't laugh at your joke. Instead of immediately withdrawing, you hold eye contact calmly. Often, nothing negative follows. Your nervous system update. 3, differentiate context shift from identity shift. What to do? After social interactions, ask, did I change my values or just my tone? Why it works. Cognitive labeling reduces emotional fusion. When you distinguish surface adaptation from core change, identity fragmentation decreases. Example: at work, you're formal. With friends, informal. But your empathy, humor, and boundaries remain. You didn't become different. You shifted style. 4, increased tolerance for mild discomfort. What to do? Intentionally allow small moments where you don't adjust. Express a slightly unpopular opinion calmly. Keep your natural laugh. Why it works. Exposure reduces social threat sensitivity. When the predicted rejection doesn't occur, the amygdala recalibrates. Your belonging thermostat becomes less reactive. Example, you admit you actually enjoy something others tease. No one rejects you. The internal alarm weakens. Here's the image to keep. You are not multiple scattered selves. You are one house with many rooms. Context turns lights on and off. Adaptation changes lighting, but the foundation stays. Feeling different everywhere is often the result of a highly responsive belonging system, not a missing identity. When you anchor core traits, slow reflexive adjustments, and tolerate mild social discomfort, the rooms begin to feel connected. You still adapt, but you don't disappear. Consistency doesn't mean sameness. It means alignment, and alignment feels quieter than performance. You may always be perceptive, sensitive to shifts, quick to adjust. That's not weakness, it's awareness. But awareness doesn't have to mean self-erasure. The next time you notice yourself changing in a room, don't panic. Just ask, am I adapting my expression or abandoning myself? There's a difference. And the more you notice that difference, the more the house feels like home, even when the lights change.